On today's episode, we're going to be going over an Indonesian dish called Ikan Pesmol. We're going to be going over some of the history, do a little bit of grocery shopping, touch on some fishy science, and finally show you guys how to make it at home. Ikan Pesmol is a dish hailing from the islands of Indonesia. More specifically, it's a dish made famous by the Sundanese people of West Java. Ikan means fish, and Pesmol refers to the style of cooking, which involves a ton of aromatics and, of course, turmeric. Ikan Pesmol is said to have originated as a dish for the upper classes, making use of the expensive and desirable milkfish, which is used in a version specifically called Bandeng Pesmol. To this day, milkfish pesmol is eaten on special occasions like Eid and Muharram, which is also known as the Islamic New Year. Although the milkfish variant is the most traditional, you can find all sorts of different fish prepared in the pesmol style. I typically like to try the dishes I feature on this channel at a local restaurant to see how it's done, but for the life of me, I can't find it within a 100-mile radius, so we're just gonna have to go in blind. Well, not totally blind. I actually got the idea for this episode and a complete recipe from the grandmother of a friend of mine living in Java. I found most of today's ingredients at a Vietnamese market in San Jose called Maki Seafood, though your local Asian grocery store should work just fine. We'll start with aromatics. Fresh turmeric, lemongrass, and ginger are quite easy to find in most well-stocked grocery stores, so no worries there. Galangal, however, is a different story. It's kind of a cousin to ginger and turmeric, and has a flavor that is neither. It's earthy with a subtle herbal taste that's kind of hard to pinpoint. Candle nuts are pretty difficult to find here stateside, as I found out in my ahi poke episode, and they're outrageously expensive when you do find them, so I recommend going for a replacement like macadamia nuts or cashews. Grab some peppers. Granny recommends a mix of bird eye and some red chilies. Shallots are best for this dish, but feel free to replace them with red onions if you want. And also grab some limes and garlic if you need. The fish is the star of the party, and the name of the game here is fresh and flaky. The Quality Index Method Scheme, or QIM for short, is a popular way to evaluate the freshness of fish. Check for clear eyes, firm flesh, bright and shiny skin, and red gills. Your seafood should not have any strong fishy odor, rather it should have a mild scent of the ocean. Poor scores in any of these categories are telltale signs that your fish is currently being enjoyed by its resident bacteria and is on its way out. As for the kind of fish, tradition would suggest milkfish or gourami, which is a type of tropical freshwater species. This market didn't have either, so I went with this beautiful pompano, which should work just fine. Now that we got our groceries settled, let's head home and start cooking. We'll start by making a paste that will form the base for our sauce. I roasted off the cashews and turmeric in a dry pan until slightly charred. As for the other aromatics, just give everything a rough chop and blend away until smooth. For the galangal and lemongrass, take a blunt heavy object and give it a good smash to release those flavors and set it aside for later. Moving on to the fish, after giving it a quick rinse to remove any leftover blood, we can score the sides with shallow cuts and help out the fishiness by rubbing in some lime juice and salt. Just let that guy sit for a few minutes, which is just enough time for you to hit that subscribe button. Now you can go ahead and give that fish a good pat down to get rid of any excess moisture. Heat up some oil in a wide bottom pan and slide in your fish. Be sure to always lay the fish away from yourself to avoid getting doused in hot oil. Typically, Ikan Pesmol is made with a quite heavily fried fish to get a nice texture when it's braised in the sauce. That works great for milkfish and sea bass, but since the fish I'm using today is relatively thin, making it fully crispy would mean completely drying out the meat, so I took this guy somewhere in between by simply frying for about 5 minutes on each side. Once it's cooked how I like it, I removed it and put it on a wire rack to let it drain for a bit while I prep the sauce. Heat up some neutral oil in a large pan or wok on high heat and slide in your spice paste. Saute it for a few minutes or until the oil just starts to separate out of the mix, then throw in the crushed galangal, lemongrass, and some bay leaves. Be sure to constantly stir to keep the paste from burning. Alright, it's been about a minute, so let's add our water and boil on high for another 5 minutes to let it thicken a bit. Give the sauce a good taste and adjust with the salt and sugar as needed, and drop in the fish. Spoon on some of the sauce for even coverage and let it simmer in the flavors for a couple minutes. Try not to poke the fish too much, which will make it fall apart. Take everything off the heat and plate it up. The dish was perfectly balanced with a wonderful light yet earthy taste, which really highlighted the mild fresh fish. Ikan Pesmol goes perfectly with rice, though I must say this dish works amazingly well with Sri Lankan egg appam. You can check out last week's video for the recipe. The family seemed to really enjoy it, and I think I'm probably gonna have to make this again. Well, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. It was a whole lot of fun to make. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below what I should try next, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.